All right, ladies and gentlemen, I would like to welcome you to the fourth debate of this season's presidential primary. Today we actually will be hearing from Senator Madeline Lorenz from West Virginia. And her opponent is Senator Caden Martinez from Kentucky. Questions have been submitted prior to the debate and will be asked by me. Candidates have been informed that they will be, or that questions may be or not limited to what has been submitted. So if you hear questions that you didn't write, that would be why. The debate format will be as follows. Each candidate will be asked a question. They will have 2 minutes to respond. At the end of their time, their opponent will get a 1-minute rebuttal. If at any time either candidate goes over the amount of time that they have given, they will hear this sound, which is their signal to stop talking. According to the coin toss in the hall, Senator Martinez is elected to go last. All right, Senator Lorenz, how do you plan to improve educational standards in the United States?
So part of my platform is for making education available to all people and promoting equity into the nation. And if we can implement more educational standards to lower income families, then that will give them more opportunity to learn about the world and have more opportunities in the future to get jobs and careers and have a good foundation. And to implement these standards, that can really help the productivity of our nation as a whole and promote that strength that we're striving for.
Okay, thank you. Senator Martinez?
Honestly, I really agree with you. One thing I'm going to focus on personally is I think we should fund more to the Department of Education. That way we can get more funding for things like FAFSA, which people used to get in college. That would also help lower income families get in, and I think you agree with me on that, correct?
Yes.
Yeah. Forward agreement.
Okay. Senator Martinez, you just said that you would increase funding to the Department of Education. That's a break from the current party platform. How do you plan on getting your party on board with that?
Well, I think all of us in general want to help education and inform the young youth of everything going on in the world right now. As you can clearly see, many world problems are affecting us currently, and I think helping more students learn all about that is something that we need to strive for.
Okay, thank you. Senator Lorenz?
Can you repeat the question?
Department of Education and bolstering it. How do you feel about bolstering the Department of Education?
Well, first and foremost, funding for the Department of Education comes from the Congress budget, and I think if we can focus on making sure that this federal budget is balanced more for things that are going to affect our country long term, such as education, and increasing more job opportunities and knowledge for people so they can go into the workforce knowing what to expect and what kinds of opportunities they can look forward to.
Okay, thank you. All right, Senator Lorenz, one of the biggest issues that we've been dealing with as a society is inflation. How do you plan on fighting inflation in your administration?
So for inflation, kind of going off the education I was talking about and helping implement more standards to increase jobs. And also, I think our administration should focus on converting to a better energy source and more renewable energy that can help promote like climate change, and by doing so then we can focus on increasing the unity of our nation.
Okay, thank you. Senator Martinez?
Yes. One way I think we can currently reduce inflation is through less government spending. I know I just said about education and spending more. However, I think there's many ways we can reduce the amount that we're spending. For example, I am for decreasing funds for the Ukraine war. I don't think we should be funding that as much as we are currently. And other things like just EU in general, we should not be involved as much in the EU as we are currently.
Okay, thank you. Going on the lines of decreasing spending, where else would you like to see spending cuts in the federal government?
Honestly, I just think there's a lot of jobs that are not needed. We have way too many people employed in certain departments, like the military, for example, Homeland Security. I get that we need it, but we have too many people employed to that position. I think we should cut some of the employees. I know that sounds wrong, but I think we should cut some employees and save on money.
Okay, thank you. Senator Lorenz?
Can you repeat the question?
Cutting spending federally.
I think if we focus planning our congressional budget and the federal budget and focusing it more on things such as education and healthcare especially, if we can cut programs such as if we can increase funding for things such as Medicare and Medicaid, then we can help the people of the United States be more healthy and live a better life.
Okay, thank you. So one of the concerns that many Americans have been dealing with is the incontinuity in the budget issues that we've been having. We see zero cooperation between Congress and between the presidency in actually getting a budget passed. What are your plans to collaborate with Congress in order to get any kind of budget passed?
My goal is to have a bipartisan cabinet that can have different angles and perspectives of the world around us, from far left liberals to far right Republicans, and then also have more moderate point of views. If we can have this collaboration of different views, then we can focus better on creating different policies that will benefit American people as a whole rather than just a certain specific spectrum.
Okay, thank you. Senator Martinez.
My general idea is I also think we should be more bipartisan. For example, the Senate and the House, we should work together on things like reforming the immigration crisis we are currently having. For example, I am putting a focus on education, for example, as we talked about earlier, and I would say I'm very bipartisan on that issue myself.
Okay, thank you. So, point of clarification, you plan on leading by example?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Senator, how do you plan on addressing income inequality with these new economic values?
I plan on adding more, well, let me repeat that. I plan on bringing trickle-down economics into the frame. I get that helps big companies, but that will overall help bolster the economy and help people of lower status as well. Not only that, I also plan on reducing taxes for people less fortunate, and I also plan on adding more tax breaks for people having children. For example, I myself made a bill talking about child tax breaks, and I think implementing that would help all.
Okay, thank you. Senator?
So I agree that the lower income people should have less taxes, and I think a way to do this is by looking at these wealthy individuals, such as those with billions and billions of dollars that they can spend. We should be taxing them, because if they have the means and opportunity to this money, they should be using it for the good of the American people. And also, by looking into businesses, we should place heavy regulations on monopolies, and be able, for large corporations, we should be able to see what their plan is in increasing spending and prices on different items that we may be buying as consumers.
Thank you. Senator Lorenz, just follow up with that. We have had a lot of discussion in the media in the last few years about reforming the IRS, potentially abolishing the IRS. However, with a recent, not only reform, but allocation of spending to the IRS, they've been able to find over $1 billion in hidden taxes that have been squirreled away by people in the last year and a half. How do you plan on addressing this success while also addressing and giving credence to the mistrust that the American public has for the IRS?
Well, the IRS should have the duty, and to build trust, we should have that duty that they are going and making sure people are turning in those taxes and paying them. So if you're able to get away with not paying your taxes, that needs to be identified and solved. And that's kind of, yeah.
Okay, thank you. Senator?
I also agree that we should keep the IRS. It's very important. We have many people not paying their taxes in this country, and in order to solve that, I think the IRS is a key.
Okay, let me know when you're ready. Yep. All right, Senator Martinez, on the idea of legalizing weed. You just said that you would legalize it. That is a break from your party. How do you plan on implementing this problem or this solution and keeping your party with you?
Well, first off, I know it sounds divisive, but my example was, why is alcohol legal but weed not? Alcohol is more damaging, more addictive than weed is, and as you can see, percentage-wise, more people die from alcohol poisoning than weed. To start it, I think that overall, I think it's a pretty bipartisan issue. I think there's a few conservatives but a few conservatives who don't think that's the case, but I think it is. I think that it will help a lot of our issues, and it will generate more revenue.
Senator?
Senator Martinez states that alcohol could be more addictive than weed. I'm not sure that I agree with that, because while alcohol is easier to access because it is in all the stores and all that, I believe that a drug is still a drug, and scientifically it changes literally like your dopamine receptors and changes your physiological standpoint as a person, making it more addictive than alcohol would.
Thank you. All right, let's shift gears yet again. It has been clear in the last few weeks the anger and the frustration that the American people are feeling over this nation's healthcare crisis. Senator Lorenz, how do you plan on improving healthcare access for the United States citizens?
So my platform is actually directly affecting the people on equitable healthcare and making healthcare access to all people, whatever background you come from. And so to do this, I think that we should focus on helping Medicaid, Medicare, and the Affordable Care Act, and helping fund those and implement them more to give stronger resources to those who are in need. For example, the elderly. I think that we should make Medicaid accessible to people at 65 and up, but continue that, because there are a lot of people who reach a certain age and they don't get that access to insurance that they need, and that's just not fair.
Thank you. Senator?
I personally think we should keep Medicare basically the same as it is right now. I think it's pretty good right now, honestly. I understand that there is a few issues, but those kinks will solve itself. I suffer with juvenile rheumatoid arthritis. I need Medicare myself. That's why I think we should keep funding for Medicare and not decrease it at all. And hopefully other people like I can get help.
Okay. How do you plan on addressing the anger that the United States feel over what they view as predatory practices from private health insurance agencies?
I think one way to solve that is I think the government should regulate Medicare a little more often. I understand that also is a bit away from my party, regulation stuff, but I think that would overall help, and I think it would solve some of the pricing problems we're having with things such as insulin, where you're getting $100 for just a thing of insulin.
Thank you.
I agree, and to expand on that more, drugs should be capped at certain prices, because you can go into the hospital and certain individuals will have to deny their care because they simply can't afford to pay over $100 for insulin a month. And not even just insulin, but EpiPens in children. That's a very common occurrence for children to have allergic reactions to things. And by having better regulation of capping prices at a certain amount, that can help the longevity of our nation and their health.
Okay. Thank you. You've mentioned the idea of capping the prices on prescription medications. How do you sell that to pharmaceutical agencies who rely on honestly competitive prices?
Well, I think if we can approach it by creating all drugs under one specific amount or a capped price, and also focus on allowing people to access these drugs at any age, any background. And pharmacies might disagree, but I think it'd be better if we're under like a universal insurance plan to focus the human efforts on increasing, once again, our longevity in the nation.
Thank you. Senator?
I understand where she's coming from. However, how much money will that cost our government just to enact policies such as that? Insurance is already a ton. Around 20-25% of our spending alone goes towards healthcare. I think we should regulate, but I don't think we should cap prices.
Thank you. Sticking on the issue of healthcare, we have seen preemptive lawsuits, which means lawsuits that are based purely on the theoretical, being introduced to the Supreme Court on a more frequent basis. What do you believe the court's roles should be when it comes to healthcare access, healthcare issues, and healthcare prices?
I honestly don't think the court should be involved with that. I think the court should be involved with other civil issues. I don't think the court should be involved with healthcare in general, honestly.
Okay. Thank you.
I believe that the court should have the knowledge, like, they should be able to collaborate with other groups that have knowledge and committees that can identify the certain issues in different civil cases. So while there is a certain extent of how much knowledge that they can, and like how much they can be a part of a case, I think we should focus on I forgot the question.
How much do you think courts should be involved in healthcare prices, healthcare regulations, and theoretical court cases?
Okay. Like I said, they should be able to collaborate and get evidence based before making assumptions on malpractice and what different scenarios may occur.
Okay. So outside of increasing funding to Medicare, how do you plan on making sure that underserved areas of America get quality health care?
For one, I think the best way to do this is by funding more clinics in those areas, because if you think about low income areas, they don't have as much access to certain like hospitals because they may be more in like the city, or they may be too far away for them to access. So I think by building more clinics and having more medical staff to go out and interact with these people and make sure and check up on them, then that can help the nation.
Thank you. Senator?
I actually agree with most part. I think we should expand healthcare to help these unfortunate citizens who are struggling with things such as this.
Thank you. One of the questions that has been submitted by your counterparts in second period, the people want to know, do you plan to uphold the current ruling on abortion by the Supreme Court?
I actually do plan on keeping that. I think it should stay with the states, and I think it should have stayed with the states a long time ago.
I disagree, because I think in certain scenarios, such as emergencies of incest and rape, mothers should have the ability to say yes or no to what they want to happen, especially in the scenario of life or death. And while the definition of pro-choice and pro-life has been so stretched because of the divide in parties and the spectrum that we have in our nation, I think if we focus on allowing, rather than irresponsible actions being the source to get an abortion, it should be more on emergent situations.
Thank you. Senator Lorenz, what role should the United States government play in gun control in the U.S.?
I think no person should have access to a gun if they are under a certain age, and I think the regulations on these guns should be way more controlled and regulatory, because no person can logically have a gun without. It's just very dangerous, and it's a threat to our security as a nation. And by having more regulations on guns, then we can focus on the military and security and police officers, because that's their job. They're here to protect us, and as long as all of those factors are in play, then people should not be carrying guns.
Follow up.
By health care.
currently the number one cause of death in children between the ages of 5 and 18 is gun violence,
Okay.
and has been for the last 5 years. So factions in the Democratic Party are trying to label this as a healthcare crisis instead of just a Second Amendment issue. Do you agree with them?
To an extent, yes, because if we look at situations such as school shootings and the fact that they had access to the guns in the first place, that can end the lives of people. Like guns, whether it's a small gun or a big gun is a gun and it's gonna hurt somebody.
Senator?
I understand that you just said it's a healthcare crisis, but I would say a gun is an item, not healthcare. Mental illness is health. On that topic, I also think that guns should not be legal. You should not be able to. You can buy a gun. I think at age 21 you should be able to buy a gun. However, I think there should be a 1-month delay until you get that gun. I think that would decrease the amount of shootings going on with, mass shootings at schools, which is terrible, by the way. And I think overall it would be a safer America.
Okay, thank you. Senator, I want to jump on something that you just said. I'm interested in your thoughts on it. You said mental health is health. Under your plans for the new healthcare systems that you've been discussing, would mental health be covered as healthcare as well?
Absolutely.
Okay, would you care to elaborate how?
I think we should put more focus on things like psychology, for example. People suffer every day, as I know. People suffer from depression. The school depression rates are at an all-time high. That's why I think we should put a bit of a focus on students who are depressed and people depressed in general, and allow them to get better through healthcare.
Thank you. Senator?
I agree completely in the sense of the education system. By having more availability to counselors and therapy, especially for students, because we're working so hard to become people of America and work for our country. And I think by focusing on those who are suffering from mental health issues, then we can better implement this idea of becoming a great nation.
Thank you. Now, Senator Lorenz, why did you want to run?
I wanted to run, as I stated before, to make equitable health care accessible to everybody, and making sure that people who need those life-altering drugs have access to them, and that no matter who you are as a person or what your background is, that you should be given this quality health care, because health care should be a right, not a privilege.
Thank you. Senator?
Sorry. I ran because I want to make America wealthy and fortunate. I want to help people who are in a bad situation get up and be able to rise up to the top and help others. And that's the main reason I ran.
Thank you. I'm sure that you've heard the idiom, physician, heal thyself. Do you believe that that accurately represents what the United States needs to do in order to maintain its global superpower status?
Absolutely. I think we need to secure the fact that we are the biggest economy, and I think we should work to make our economy bigger and better through the use of just working within ourselves.
I agree that America is a nation that is united, and we should be united under the law, the Constitution, and work together to create to solve different issues and work together and collaborate.
Thank you. What do you plan on accomplishing in your first 100 days in office?
The main thing I want to focus on is getting these medications that I stated before, insulin, EpiPens, and frankly all, and making sure that people get this access to them, and also increasing in lower income neighborhoods and areas, increasing their availability to healthcare to get the opportunities that every other American is able to get.
I want to implement my tax bill I wrote. I think the tax credit bill will help children in need, families in need, and I think that would overall help America as a whole.
Okay, thank you. Question here, gone. Ooh. Just right out of existence. One of the biggest concerns that we've seen in the last 3 or 4 administrations is the balance of power between the federal government and state governments. As president, how do you plan on healing that rift?
As a federal government, I think we should stay out of a few state issues, as topics such as abortion, schools, for example. I think we should stay out of that in general, besides, of course, what I mentioned earlier, the FAFSA and stuff like that. But also allow for federal government to enact some policies, such as the legalization of weed.
Thank you.
I think if we can focus on the financial aspect of providing state governments with the opportunities, such as in the context of education, and by giving out more money for grants and such, so that we can have a more interactive education for students all around the country.
Thank you. Senator Lorenz, let's go back to the immigration question at hand. How do you plan on working with the border nation, or the nations we share borders with, in order to solve the problem of illegal immigration?
So, would you mean like Mexico, Canada? So, like I said before, I think if we focus on having more people at these borders and more workers to legitimately check what is coming through our nation, and by collaborating with those governments that are bordering us, and looking into the practices that they already have at hand, and focusing more on prevention, because if we can prevent immigrants from even getting close to the border or passing through, then that can help our nation as a whole.
Thank you. Senator?
I think we should not necessarily force, but implore Mexico to help us through the use of tariffs. I think Mexico needs to do their part as well. I feel like our country is doing most of it. They need help out.
Okay. Thank you. What are your plans for the Dreamers?
Excuse me?
What are your plans for the Dreamers? The generation of illegal immigrants who came into the United States under the DACA Act, who have been here legally, but don't necessarily qualify as citizens or legal immigrants.
Okay. I think we should be more lenient on them, actually. One of my fellow senators over there actually passed a bill to help us with that issue and decrease the amount of criminals, specifically illegal immigrants, who are still here. I think we should be nice, and an example of this is the fact that illegal immigrants, although they are illegal, they still make us money.
Thank you.
I agree to some extent on what he's saying. However, I think that if we can focus on and prioritizing those individuals who have been in our country working hard, just as Senator Martinez said, if we can prioritize those people over those who are illegal and getting them to reunite with their families and their parents, and especially children, and focusing on helping them become more united in that new light of hope that our nation shares.
Thank you. What is, in your opinion, the #1 opportunity for job growth in the United States?
I'm going to go ahead and say healthcare, because while after COVID, for example, we saw a dip in people becoming nurses, people becoming doctors, because out of straight fear of their safety. So now that we're starting to recover from this, and it's important that we get education to those wanting to aspire to become doctors, and that by getting more nurses and doctors and medical professionals, that we can support our people of America.
Thank you.
I kind of agree, but I think we should put more focus on manufacturing itself. I think we should be able to rely on ourselves and not other countries in general. And one way to do that is to increase our manufacturing industry, such as our steel industry, our farmers, for example, agriculture. Just in general, we should make more stuff in America.
Thank you. And bolstering our national security.
I think I said this before, but I want to make sure we have more border control over our eastern and western coast, along with our south. and I think we should put more of a focus on what's going on around the world. Watching, not necessarily getting involved, but making sure we're active in watching what other countries are planning to do.
Thank you. Senator?
I agree, and I think if we can utilize technology and different innovations to help come up with new ways, because there's such an influx of migrants coming into our country that it can be overwhelming. So if we rely on things like technology, then as American people, we're bound to come up with something that can help solve this issue.
As a presidential candidate, who would you identify abroad as a key partner in foreign relations, in international diplomacy, in human rights? And like, which nation would you work with in order to bolster your own goals?
I think let's take Africa for example. They suffer the most from not having access to healthcare, and as my personal goal to spread healthcare to even within our nation, if we want to go outside of the realm and also look at foreign nations, then I think partnering with Africa and giving them the services that they need to become healthy as well is a great goal.
Well, first off, Africa is not a country. It has a continent.
Oh, that's
First off. Anyways, I think we should put more of a focus on Israel. I understand what's going on over there right now is very debatable, and they're having a few issues over there. However, I think a key thing about Israel is that we can see what's going on from there while we have an ally.
Okay, thank you. Final question. How liberally do you plan on using the most favored nation status in trade partners abroad?
I might use it a few times here and there. You know, we are the greatest country after all.
Can you repeat that?
How do you plan, or how often do you plan on using the most favored nation status in trade relations abroad?
If it will help partnerships with other countries, then we should go for it.
Okay, thank you. All right, Senator Lorenz, you have 1 minute for your closing statement.
My name is Madeline Lawrence. I am the senator from West Virginia and Democrat Party, and my platform is about increasing equitable health care to those in need, especially in lower income families. And by doing so, we can make America a great nation. And if you vote for me, then I'm here to directly listen to your change that you want to see in America. And by doing so, we can create health care as a right and not, I forgot the word, but as a right.
Thank you. Senator Martinez, 1 minute.
Hi, I'm Caden Martinez. I'm a Republican senator from Kentucky, and I'm here for you. I'm here for America. I'm here for everyone. I'm here to put a focus on the immigration crisis going on at hand, the economy, and most of all, us as American citizens working together. Thank you.
All right. Ladies and gentlemen, your 6th period candidates. All right, hang on. I did it again. My camera didn't start. Do it again. All right, thank you. All right, ladies and gentlemen, let's give him another round of applause. Okay, now y'all can breathe.